All right, let's get right into this. We're going to break down a really disturbing first person account of a psychological transformation. We're going to follow this author's journey from what he calls a nice guy all the way to the creation of this dark, manipulative alter ego. And we'll be using his own words to see how he built this worldview. So, it all starts here, with his own words. He's setting the stage, telling us he's always had this fascination with the bad guys, characters like Hector, Cain, even Darth Vader. And this isn't just some passing thing. For him, it's a deep part of his identity, a side of himself that he feels he's had to keep locked away. So, how did that suppressed side finally get out? Well, we have to start with what the author calls the nice guy's dilemma, this huge gap he saw between his intentions and what was actually happening in his life. To really get this transformation, you first have to understand his starting point. He calls himself the nice guy. This is a whole identity he built for himself around being respectful, being kind, and basically trying to be the exact kind of man he thought women were looking for. This was his game plan for more than a decade. Okay, this slide really lays out the conflict that was brewing inside him. On the left, you've got the nice guy's goals, which sound pretty good, right? But look at the right side. That's his perception of the results. It's not just disappointment. He sees it as a decade of proven failure that only led to him feeling used and disrespected. This disconnect is the engine for everything that comes next. So this feeling of failure, it just keeps building until it hits a breaking point. And instead of looking inward, the author comes up with a pretty radical solution. He creates an alter ego he calls Evilguy. So who is this evil guy? Well, according to the author, he's the sum of every single negative impulse he's ever pushed down. He's the direct product of what he dismissively calls female bullshit. So Evilguy isn't just a bad mood, you know? He's a calculated, fully formed solution to the nice guy's problems. And this quote right here, this is the core philosophy. It's cynical, it's deterministic. The worldview is that biology's everything, and that women are just hardwired to want a predator. So in his mind, the solution is simple. If you want to succeed, you have to become one. And just to be clear, this new persona isn't just about being cynical or assertive. It's actively cruel. This statement shows a huge shift from just wanting a different outcome to actually enjoying the act of causing someone else pain. This is a massive red flag for the kind of malice that Evilguy is built on. Now, this is so important to understand. This didn't happen by accident. It wasn't a slow drift. It was a conscious choice. He describes this long internal battle between the nice guy and Evilguy, and in the end, they make a deal. He's going to let Evilguy take the wheel, but only for a limited time, kind of like a twisted experiment before he starts a new life. So what happens when he actually lets this persona loose? Well, next we're going to look at what he calls his case studies, where he starts testing his new theories out on real people. And he's not just winging it. He has a literal playbook, a cold, step-by-step process. He describes using these exact steps on 2 different single mothers on 2 nights in a row. He lies to get them to buy him food, uses a canned line to get what he wants, and then just ghosts them. He actually documents all of this as a successful test of his Evilguy strategy. The experiments then escalate. After the private manipulations, he takes the act public. Something totally minor happens. A woman accidentally spills his drink, and he uses it as an excuse to just unload on her and her friends. And he doesn't just mention he was mean. He catalogs these specific, brutal insults he used. He's not writing this with any sense of shame. He's treating it like data collection for his experiment, using language designed to be as cruel as possible to see what would happen. And here it is, the big takeaway for him. He sees the women's shocked reactions not as disgust, but as captivation. For him, this is the ultimate proof that his theory is right. Being a hostile jerk works better at getting attention, any kind of attention, than being polite ever did. It's a really twisted, self-reinforcing loop of logic. So after all these experiments, what's left? Let's look at the new worldview that gets locked into place, leaving the author with a brand new, hardened set of beliefs. This timeline really shows you how fast this all happened. It starts with bitterness from a breakup, but that quickly morphs into a strategic choice to be malicious. And within just a few months, that strategy hardens into a full-blown ideology that starts to include some really violent thoughts.
So by the end of this whole period, his worldview is pretty much set in stone, based on these core ideas. He says hating is a giddy joy. He sees things like Valentine's Day as proof of entitlement. And most chilling of all, he concludes that women are fundamentally dishonest and actually deserve to be hit.
And this quote is where it all culminates. It's absolutely chilling. After a woman at a bar dismisses him, this is his immediate, overwhelming thought: to commit an act of horrific violence. The transformation is complete. Evilguy is no longer just a strategy. It's the lens through which he sees the world, and it's filled with violent rage. So, what are we left with? It's a grim story, a journey from frustration straight into fury. The author sees this whole thing as a logical escape from failure. And it leaves us with a pretty big question. What does a narrative like this really tell us about how alienation and deep resentment can completely and terrifyingly reshape a person's entire view of the world?